Hello everyone, this is Joe Sport from Fantasy Team Assist, and I am bringing this video about Week 11 to you guys, the Week 11 matchups. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the welfare stack that I gave for Week 10, which was Kirk Cousins and Reed, which scored big. The top team in the Millionaire Maker had that stack. It was good, it was cheap, and they scored, I forgot, a bunch of points between the two. 50-something points, I think it was. So, alright, let's go right into it. Week 11. Alright, so my first quarterback is Alex Smith, going against the Chargers, who they're giving up the 6th most fantasy points. And the stack I like with Alex Smith is Jeremy Maclin and his tight end Kelsey. Okay, and moving on, Derek Carr from the Oakland Raiders going against the Detroit Lions. The Lions are giving up the 10th most passing yards, and his two favorite targets are Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. I put both wide receivers. A lot of people are debating whether or not to pick up Cooper, who's the young receiver, really polished, or the veteran Crabtree, who actually everybody thinks Cooper's getting more targets because it's just ESPN is talking about Cooper. But if you look up the stats, Crabtree's actually getting more targets. He's averaging 10 point something, and Cooper's averaging 9. So it's about a 1 target difference. It isn't much. But what the difference is that Crabtree is a lot cheaper. So I definitely like Crabtree, but he's cheap enough that you actually can get Cooper and Crabtree and Carr on the same team. I have a lineup like that if you want to go heavy into that game. That's an option. Okay, now Matt Ryan. Going against the Colts. The Colts are giving up the 5th most passing yards. So that's also a good pick. And Julio Jones is his number 1 target. Julio Jones is averaging the 2nd most targets for wide receivers. So he's getting a lot of work, and those targets translate into fantasy points. And his tight end is Tammy. Relatively cheap, Tammy. He had a big game a few weeks ago. He's a good, viable option at the tight end position. Now, Matthew Stafford for the Detroit Lions is going against the Raiders. So, obviously, I have Carr here. And now the opposing quarterback is Matthew Stafford. And the Raiders are giving up the 2nd most passing yards. Their run defense is okay, but that pass defense is really, really suspect. And obviously the stack for Stafford is going to be Calvin Johnson, and his tight end is Ebron. This week's welfare stack, I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson. Matthew Stafford is the cheapest quarterback on this list, and out of all the quarterbacks I was looking at this weekend, Matthew Stafford is the cheapest. He has a great matchup. It could turn into another Week 10 Kirk Cousins. So I say Week 11 is going to be Matthew Stafford, and I think that stack is really good. Calvin Johnson isn't cheap, but when you stack him with Matthew Stafford, the stack for the quarterback wide receiver is cheap. All right, an extra tight end that I like is Greg Olsen. We know Cam Newton is having a phenomenal year, and his favorite target is Olsen, and he's a tight end. So considering the workload he gets, it's like he's a wide receiver, but you're getting him for tight end money. So as a tight end, he's on the top half of the cost, but when you compare his production to wide receivers, he's still a good buy. And wide receiver, talking about good buys, Amendola. We all know that, unfortunately, Julian Edelman went down with a broken foot. He's got surgery. So the next man up is Amendola. He's really cheap, and Brady loves to throw that ball. So that offense is all about passing the ball. So definitely Amendola is a good pickup. And they're going against the Bills. Don't know. Not crazy about that. Everybody says that the Bills' defense is really good. I think it's overrated, but it's still not a bad. I think it's kind of like middle of the pack defense. I know Tom Brady had a rough time with the Giants and their sorry defense, so this might be a bit of a harder matchup, but you just can't beat the price for Amendola and the workload he's going to see. Okay, now running backs. Adrian Peterson versus the Packers. Adrian Peterson is coming off a really big game, and now he's going against the Packers, which are giving up the 9th most rushing yards in the NFL. Okay, he's expensive, but for cash games, he's probably a good pick. Jacandrick West from the Chiefs. Last week, he played like he was Jamal Charles. We know Jamal Charles went down with injury. So he's going against the Chargers, which the Chargers giving up the 6th most rushing yards. So I like that pick. And he's playing like Jamal Charles for a fraction of the price. Now we've got Darren McFadden from the Dallas Cowboys going against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are giving up the 2nd most rushing yards in the NFL. So their running defense is really bad. And on top of that, I went ahead and I checked the weather for Miami. It's going to be in Miami, but they're predicting 18 miles an hour and rain for this Sunday. So if that is going to take a look at it Saturday, and if it is going to be like that, you know that once the miles per hour start creeping up past 12, once they get past 15 miles per hour, the pass attempts drop dramatically. So you know they're going to be running the ball a lot, and if it's raining, even more so. Okay, Dan Bailey for the going against the Dolphins. He's the kicker for the Cowboys. They're predicting that the Cowboys are going to score 24.25 points, and with that weather, they may not be able to get into the end zone that easy. So they're probably going to kick a lot of field goals. So Bailey may be slated for a big game. All right, another kicker is Bullock for the Jets. They're going against the Texans, predicted to score 22.25 points. And we've got Franks from Miami, the opposing kicker for Bailey. And again, they're going to be home, bad weather. They may have to settle for field goals versus punching it into the end zone. And they're predicted, according to Vegas insiders, 23.25 points. So relatively good scoring game where they may not be able to throw the ball a lot, run the ball. So once they get close, they may get ahead and settle for that field goal. All right, now for defenses. Got Seahawks versus the 49ers. We know Kaepernick was benched. 49ers, the worst total offense in all of NFL. And you know the Seahawks, they just took over the first spot for defense over the Broncos. So they're the best defense statistically in the NFL going against the worst offense. It's going to be a very high-owned defense. But if you don't mind that, obviously they're slated to have a big game as far as all the defenses is concerned. Now we've got the Ravens going against the Rams. Rams, everybody knows the Rams for Todd Gurley and their run game. But when you look at the stats, they have the second worst total offense. So they're going against the Ravens, which are going to be at home. By the way, the Seahawks are going to be at home also. So the Ravens are going to be at home. Now you've got the Rams with the second worst offense. Gurley didn't have the really big game last week. So even if he runs for 150 yards, let's just say, they're still the second worst offense. And their passing game is horrible. They just got Wes Welker. You don't know what kind of condition he's in. He hasn't played a game in forever, and the timing will probably be off. And also, he may not be able to. He may not be conditioned. He may not be ready for NFL speed. So if that's the case, we may see an interception here and there. So Ravens, I like the Ravens, and the Ravens are really cheap. They're only $100 more than the cheapest defense this week, and on FanDuel. And then I've got Dolphins defense going against the Cowboys. Cowboys, they're the third worst total offense. So with that being said, we got the weather being horrible. It's slated to be raining and 18 miles per hour this Sunday. So with that, the Dolphins are probably their defense. The defense has shown glimpses of good play. So I'm thinking Dolphins at home against the Cowboys is a good pick. All right, so thanks and good luck. If you like the video, click like, subscribe, and check out the website. I've got lineups and other matchups on the website. Thanks.